Okay, good. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the January 26th meeting of the Board of Supervisors, Madera County. Are there any additions to the agenda?
No, Chairman, there are no additions to the agenda.
Okay, we'll go to closed session. Are there any questions on closed session items to the public? Seeing none, bringing it back. Please read the closed session items.
There's a long list.
Very long list.
Okay,
That's how come we have all these lawyers out here.
I know. Conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. County negotiators are Adrian Caleb and Ken Caves. Employee organization are all units. Public employee performance evaluations pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. The title of the position, there are several. It's County Administrative Officer, Agricultural Commissioner, Behavioral Health Services Director, and the county librarian is actually an employment pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. We have several ongoing existing litigations pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, subsection D1, Cureton versus the County of Madera, City of Chowchilla versus the County of Madera, County of Madera versus Madera Disposal Systems Incorporated, Ian Roth versus Madera County Sheriff's Department, and County of Madera versus T. Travis. And the last item is anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, subsection D2. There's significant exposure to litigation, and we have 3 cases to discuss.
Closed session. Back into session. Do we have from council anything to report in closed session?
There are items to report, Chairman.
Go ahead and read them in.
Under closed session 2A as an apple, on a motion by Supervisor Wheeler, seconded by Supervisor Rodriguez, and a roll call vote was to unanimously approve an agreement, a settlement agreement between SEIU and the County of Madera. The major terms are that the County of Madera and SEIU have been involved in a dispute over the implementation of the county's furlough program that was in place from January 2010 to June 2013. And they've agreed to resolve the outstanding PERB charges as well as other claims, complaints, or grievances by mutually agreeing to the following. For current and previous employees represented by SEIU, the County of Madera, by March 31st, 2016, will render payment as follows. 96 hours to employees who were furloughed for any 12 consecutive months period during the entire furlough program. 48 hours to employees who were furloughed less than 12 consecutive months, but not less than 3 months. 0 hours to employees who were furloughed for less than 3 months. And payment for current employees shall be based on the rate of pay in effect as of December 31st, 2015. Payments for previous or separated employees shall be based on the rate of pay in effect at the time of the termination. In addition to the above referenced payments, the County of Madera shall credit current employees with 144 hours of time on the books for those who were furloughed for any 12 consecutive month period during the entire furlough program. Current employees who were furloughed less than 12 consecutive months but at least 3 months will receive 72 hours, and current employees who were furloughed less than 3 months will not receive any hours. Employees represented by SEIU are encouraged to contact their union leadership if they have any questions about the execution of this agreement, and this agreement is available upon request to the clerk of the board. One more item to report, Chairman. Under, let me look for it here, item 2E as an elephant. On a motion by Supervisor Wheeler and seconded by Supervisor Rogers, a roll call vote was to unanimously approve a settlement agreement to dismiss this action. The major terms of the agreement, this will be a little bit shorter, is MDSI will pay the county $300,000 on or before 30 days after the execution of this agreement. Additionally, any outstanding balance or obligations on a private activity bond from the California Pollution Control Financing Authority is released. I've already mentioned that the settlement agreement dismisses this litigation in its entirety. There's some general releases, and no party admits to any fault or liability in connection with the termination of these contracts that were a part of this action. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, moving forward. Pastor Tim, would you come up and give us the invocation? And I would like everybody to notice the memorial statement that we're making here on the board. It's been up there since the beginning of the meeting. What we're going to try to do is anybody that has passed away from the last board meeting, as you can see, we have quite a few. So please keep them in your mind as we do our invocation. Thank you.
Good morning, members of the board, Chairman Fernelli. Just want to say that we want to welcome everyone here, gathered here this morning. I'm honored also to be here on behalf of the MMA, and honored that we're asking and also inviting God to be here and involved in our wonderful county today. We're just going to bow our heads today. Heavenly Father, we come before you, Lord, in the name of Jesus. And Father, we thank you for this beautiful day, Father, that you have made. And Father, we will rejoice and be glad in it, Lord. And Father, we pray for understanding for all of our supervisors this morning, God, concerning our community and also concerning the people of your community, God, today. We pray for your blessing over our city, God, our county, God, for every decision that will bring you glory, God. We lift up our probation, God, our sheriff department, our fire department, our social services, and also our mental health and our entire community of county employees, God. We pray for your favor and blessing, God, that you would lead us, that you would strengthen us, God. And Father, this morning we need wisdom, God. Father, we need your guidance, Lord God. And Father, we need you, God, to help us, God, to walk in your conviction, Lord. I just thank you, Lord God, for all that you're doing, Lord. And Father, as we start this day, God, we pray that you would be magnified, God. We give you all glory, and God, we give you all the honor, Lord. And in Jesus Christ, your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Jay, would you say the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add a couple names to that passed away. Maybe I'll know we're going to do this now. Maxine West and George Priest, both long time members of North Fork from the early 60s. Both passed away in the last week and a half, and great people in North Fork. Did a lot of things for the people up there. So
Yeah, we just started this this week. I think it's really a nice thing, to
Yeah,
do. And Robert's,
I like it.
Been looking through all the newspapers and everything. But if you have anybody, please give the names to Robert. We'll put that up there every meeting. And as you can see, we do have a veteran that passed away with the flower there. And our prayers go out to him and their family. Okay, consent calendar. Are there any questions from the board concerning the consent calendar? The only one, since no one does, I have a question on you. Would you please come on up, Kelly, and talk about you for a little bit? On you? On you. On you, you. Great. Okay.
You did say you,
I
I
didn't
hope.
see it. I didn't see it. Yeah.
Kelly Woodard, your Social Services Director. So before you today is a request to enter into an agreement with the workforce, the McWIC, to provide on-the-job training. As I think many of you are aware, the state has come back to the table and is really wanting counties to enter into on-the-job training opportunities. When the economy was really sort of faltering several years ago, we had an agreement with the workforce, and I'm happy to report that we're back in a position that we can again enter into this type of agreement. We will be asking the workforce to provide us with extensive data on an every few month basis, and we can certainly come back and provide your board with any updates as it relates to our successes in this regard.
We'll actually have a person at the social service office, or we will be referring.
Well, as you know, the two offices are just down the street from one another,
Right.
and we have had a history of sharing space. Right now, space is a big issue for both of the agencies, and so we are talking about how to sort of blend it. But the good news is that our two departments have worked extensively in the past together, so our folks know one another quite well. My hope would be that we would get back to the place where we would be sharing space, but I can't tell you that's going to happen tomorrow.
Okay. I'd really like to hear back in about 6 months on how it's working and how the program's working, and see how many people we got new jobs. And
We would be happy to do a
Thank you.
report back to you.
When we do the new complex out on 28, will that, all those offices be there?
I think that we will find ourselves partnering either there or at any space that workforce may.
Yeah,
Would
it'd be nice
my
if we had it all in one spot.
anticipated
though.
outcome to this is that we will find ourselves back together. But we don't have a plan today.
Okay. Thanks, Kelly. Tom?
Yeah, on item Y, the contracts are kind of, I guess, asked backwards. The first one for the well drilling, H&B well drilling, the assigned area is for Mark Wallow Pump, and then the Mark Wallow Pump Service contract is signed by H&B Drilling. So we need to correct that before we vote on it, because we're going to make sure that the public don't think that
The other way around.
it's the other way around between those two. It's on
Okay.
page.
Good catch, Tom.
Duly noted.
Okay.
And then I just wanted to thank all the staff. I asked last meeting about printing names on the contracts where they sign them, and I see a lot of them are that way this time, and I really appreciate that. So, because it makes it a lot easier. That way I don't have to read the scribble, because I have no idea who the scribble was. So thank you. That's the only thing.
You're going to correct that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else, Tom?
Yep, that's it on that one. Did pretty good overall.
It's getting good. It's getting good. Okay. Okay. Any more questions from the board? That's it. Brett? Nope. I thought you were waving at me. No. That's side vision. Hearing none, I'd like to hear from the public. Any questions on the consent calendar from the public? This is a consent. This time is a consent item. Is that a consent item that you're? No, that's not consent. That's how come I asked. Thank you.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
No, not yet. This
Not
is
yet.
just public comment on
Consent.
consent calendar.
Okay.
I make a motion we approve the consent calendar with the corrections on item Y.
Second?
Okay, we have a first from Tom and then a second from Brett. May I have a motion?
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez? Yes. Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Okay,
And also, there will be public comment on 6C, too. So there will be a regular public comment and then that time, too.
okay. Rhonda, would you please read public comment?
The first 15 minutes of each regular session is set aside for members of the public to comment on any item within the jurisdiction of the board, but not appearing on the agenda. Items presented under public comment may not be discussed or acted upon by the board at this time. For items appearing on the agenda, the public is invited to comment at the time the item is called for consideration by the board. Any person addressing the board under public comment will be limited to a 3-minute presentation to ensure that all interested parties have an opportunity to speak. Also, all persons addressing the board must state their name and county of residence for the record.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Linda Brzee, Madeira Ranchos. My comment is regarding an incident that happened in my home. And I'm bringing it before the Board of Supervisors because I just feel like right now my hands are tied. As I discussed, I don't know if anyone remembers, I think maybe Supervisor Rogers does remember, I was here during Adoption Day, and I talked about my 4 foster sons that I currently have in my home. I had an incident that happened where my children got involved with someone that was part Native American and part Hispanic, who told my children that at school, they were interacting at school, and I had no idea that we had no right to have our children since we were not Native Americans. And they began to harass my children, 2 of my boys, and just brainwash them to no degree, which resulted in December during the Christmas break, 2 of my boys ran away from home, and they went directly to the home of these people. I called the sheriff's deputy because I suspected, the Madera County Sheriff's Department, which I suspected that my boys had gone there. And I had them go question that family. During the time that the Madera County Sheriff's Department questioned that family, that they told them, we don't know where the boys are. We have not seen the boys. If we did, we turn them in, okay? The sheriff told them at that point, if you're lying to me, we will come back and you're going to be in big trouble because this is aiding and abetting a minor. Well, my children were inside of the house and heard the whole conversation with the sheriff's deputy. Since then, I have contacted the Madera County Sheriff's Department on numerous occasions, asking them why they're allowing this family to continue. Number one, they're continuing to harass my family, but they lied to the sheriff's deputies, and nothing has been done about it. I don't know, but I've called. I don't know what else to do, trying to get some action taken for these people who continually harass me, but also they're still having interaction with my children. And the Madera County Sheriff's Department just keeps telling me we're looking into it. Looking into what? This was in December, and I have no resolution onto what to do. And who do I contact? I'm just bringing it before the board because I'm frustrated right now. I've had my children, my boys, 5.5 years, and we've had a good family life together, and this one family has come in and has created turmoil in my home. It was just with 2 boys. They single out 2 of my boys. I have 4 brothers. And what is wrong with the Madera County Sheriff's Department that a citizen keeps begging for help, and they give me, my husband and I, no answers? So I know you can't comment basically on it unless you want to because it is public comment, but I just want to let you know I'm extremely frustrated with the Madera County Sheriff's Department.
I want to thank you for bringing that to our attention. The sheriff is here. I imagine he will contact you, and hope to get that resolved. Thank you.
Okay.
Have you considered contacting an attorney and getting a restraining order against these people?
My sister, who is a judge in the Bay Area, we talked about that in depth last week about, she said, I think it's time for you to get a restraining order. If you can't get the sheriff to act on this or do anything, just go ahead and file for a restraining order. And we just talked about it about a week ago.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so that looks like where I'm going to have to go is just do a restraining order.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Stevie?
Chairman Farinelli, Supervisors, my name is Stevie McNeil. I'm a Madera County Ag Commissioner. And the Asian citrus psyllid is a vector for a serious citrus disease, and we've had our third find in Madera County. I'd like to say that we've just found in the last couple of years just a total of 3. The disease is not present. At this time, the only place that the disease has been found is in LA County, so that's good news. And immediately after this last find, the state put a whole density of traps up, and there haven't been any other additional finds since then. And what this does is it expands the quarantine a little bit more, and that's kind of a scary word, but business goes on as usual. It's just little more hoop that someone has to go through to ship their fruit out, but business can go on and shipping can go on. Had a very productive meeting with the landowners. Supervisor Frazier and Chairman Farnelli was there, and I think it was very productive. And they're going to be pursuing treatment, and I expect that to happen in less than 30 days. And anyway, just want to let you know that even though that the quarantine has expanded a little bit, that has not shut anything down. And we're lucky we haven't found any more since the original one.
I want to compliment you, Stevie, on bringing the property owners just to the table before sending out a letter telling them to cease and desist or to immediately cure. It was like you said, it was a good meeting. They were very receptive to it, and it didn't put us at odds. We were sitting at the table together trying to come up with a solution to this problem that would help them as well as the overall health of the other citrus trees in our county. So I just want to compliment you on the foresight of doing that and working with the property owner versus government just going and saying, we're here to help, you have to pay a bunch of money. So thank you.
Yeah, there was getting to be some state pressure. They wanted to go through what's called an abatement process. To me, that was very heavy-handed. I says, I prefer to handle this in a civil, friendly way, and we're all going to be part of the solution rather than, as you said, demand letters, Superior Court, and this type of thing. Now, who wants that? And like I said, I think we had a very productive meeting, and we're all working together on the solution.
And I think had we done it that way, we would have been in a fight. And this way, I mean, they said, how quickly can we do it? I'll put it on tomorrow. So I just want to compliment you on that, and it's just a good model of how we should deal with business owners and property owners.
I'd rather have us be part of the solution.
Absolutely.
David?
I also want to commend you. As you know, I called you the
Right.
minute I found out about this. And the thing is that property owners they have no idea where these things come from. It's not that they invited them. It's not that they brought them here. It's not their fault, and I appreciate the amiable way in which you dealt with it. And it definitely is going to turn out fine as a result of that. But that's the kind of servant attitude that we need to take as a county toward people who are experiencing a disaster of sorts. And I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Next.
Chairman Farinelli, fellow supervisors, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mike Fuller. I live in the city and county Madera, and no, I'm not here to talk about the conditions in my neighborhood around the new courthouse.
Wow.
For one, the Elks Lodge, they got the Madera Police Department to parole their perimeter twice a night, so that has really helped a lot. And also, the county tore down the vacant buildings that you owned in that neighborhood, too, and that also helped a lot, so I want to thank you for that. What I am here to talk about today is something that I saw as inappropriate and unprofessional action taken by Supervisor Wheeler at your last meeting. And it had to do with him picking up the executive director of Big Brothers and Big Sisters and carrying her across the room before he had a picture taken. And, I was shocked when I saw it happen and dumbfounded that an elected official would do that not only in a public meeting, but a public meeting that's videotaped. And, I'm not suggesting, Supervisor Wheeler, that your behavior is bad as, Clarence Thomas or Bill Clinton or Bill Cosby, their alleged behavior. Not at all. But if there's any other women out there that you may have disrespected in that way, and they have an attorney, all the attorney would have to do is show a judge or a jury that video, and it'd be pretty easy to make the case that what you did was potentially premeditated and predatory. And I'm really not the most conservative person, but I am a stickler for professional behavior. And again, I was really surprised. And before I let the rest of you off the hook, if none of you spoke to Supervisor Wheeler and cautioned him about that kind of behavior on your own initiative, I think the county has a systemic problem, because it just didn't set a very good example, not only for you electeds, but your staff. So I'm hoping it's something that you'll take seriously. And again, I mean no disrespect to you, Supervisor Wheeler, but I was shocked. And again, I thought it was inappropriate and unprofessional. So I hope you'll take my comments seriously.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Norm?
Morning, Chairman, members of the board. Norman Allender here with the mod. I wanted to clarify some email traffic that's gone around. We got some draft good news about our $500,000 grant for the forming of the groundwater sustainability agencies. And the reason why we didn't make a big press release is because we haven't actually got the money yet. So some of the emails you saw about what do we do next, you got the draft recommendation. It's in the public comment period until February 8th. After February 8th is when we'll get the official word and when we would, not be counting our chickens before they hatch. So draft good news came in, but it is a draft recommendation, such as the thing with the state. The public is to give comment on this and up until February 8th. So we're very, very close, but it isn't 100%, and I don't want to make it too big of a deal right now. So anyway, I just want to inform the board of the draft good news.
Thank you.
This is a draft thank you for your good work.
Yeah.
Good morning, Chairman, Supervisors. Brittany Dyer, the District Chief of Staff, for Supervisor Tom Wheeler.
Thank you. Good morning again. Brittany, District Chief of Staff for Supervisor Tom Wheeler. We wanted to provide a quick update today regarding tree mortality. This will be on the agenda for next meeting, February 9th. However, the next Tree Mortality Task Force meeting meets on February 8th, making it a bit relevant to just bring it up and give you guys an FYI today. So first, I just want to start with a little bit of background just to summarize. On September 15th, your board voted to have a local emergency. This emergency actually highlighted public safety as well as watershed health, and it specifically asked the governor to go ahead and declare a statewide emergency. By October 30th, the governor listened. He did this. They've been working hard, getting things going. From that standpoint, we had a tree mortality task force that came together, and they've met every month since. So that would be November, December, and January. In November, Supervisor Rogers attended the meeting as the RCRC rep he was asked to. After that meeting, Supervisor Rogers spoke with District 5 Supervisor Tom Wheeler and said that there was a lot of district-specific details that were needed on the ground. So from that point of view, Tom decided to be attending those in his place. And at the November meeting, we had a variety of maps shown to us from the CAL FIRE staff that identified 6 priority county areas that, through GIS systems, were able to look at the intensities of the mortality throughout the Sierras as a whole and the state. And the top 6 that came through were Madera, Mariposa, Fresno, Tuolumne, Tulare, and Kern. From that, being that there's about 80 or more people in this task force, they decided to actually break out into working groups. So 8 working groups were established to start trying to get work on the ground on a local level. Those working groups are mapping and monitoring, prescribed fire group, public outreach, regulations, resource allocation, utilization bioenergy group, and utilization market development group. Madera County was assigned to participate in the utilization biomass group because of their project in eastern Madera County and what that could do into the future months and years coming forward. They also were able to get a website up and going online, www.treetaskforce.org. This has all the agendas as well as meeting minutes and maps that if anyone is interested to check that out. So what does this mean on a local level? Well, as I mentioned before, Len Nelson, who's the forester for the MMU branch of CAL FIRE, will be here next board meeting, February 3rd, to discuss how funds will be used on a local level. We're anticipating about $60,000 in eastern Madera County. That would be about 80 days for inmate crews and 80 days of engines. They're also working with Supervisor Wheeler to identify priority roads in the area. Additionally, they were able to speed up the process for the SRA grants. So SRA grants were just submitted on January 4th, and as of yesterday, they actually released some of those awards. So we have been made aware that the North Fork CDC will be receiving a grant through the Yosemite Sequoia RC&D, which will provide $100,000 to create a log deck so that there'll be an area to actually store these logs.
At the mill site.
Yep, right there at the mill site. Additionally, we have learned that another one of the projects, approximately $95,000, has been awarded to in Bass Lake. So additional work will be done there. And I think that about sums it up. We just wanted to give you guys that background information, being that on February 8th, we'd have our February tree mortality meeting up in Sacramento, and February 9th, Len will be coming here to talk about some of the specifics.
David?
Yeah, I just want to thank you, Brittany, for taking the reins and kind of a tag team approach to this. But I could quickly see that my involvement in it was kind of third party at that point, and I really felt that Tom's district was the area that was better served, and you were the person to handle that. So I want to thank you for taking the reins. It's been very productive. It's a high priority for RCRC, and it's discussed at every meeting. So the tree mortality issue is a huge issue for our region, and it's one that will be ongoing for many years, I'm afraid. But thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to thank, David and Rick both for leading us on that, because it's so important that we are hands-on on that. So we're getting more money, first monies already before the other 6 counties is declared a disaster. So
as a result of that, yeah.
I just want to thank you for, really getting involved in this. And, it's just a shame that we have to be reactive instead of proactive. And if we'd have followed the rules back in 2004 and we had that $750 million a year for cleaning up our forest, this might have not happened. We're still doing studies, I think 8 years of studies from a bunch of scientists, what is a clean forest and all that stuff. It's absolutely ridiculous. But there is $750 million a year going into a healthy forest program. So maybe we can tap into that. And the other thing I'd like to say is I really appreciate you and Tom, working with the other counties that have the same issues, especially Randy up at Tuolumne, and they really have a disaster now with the rim fire. After the rim fire, their reservoirs are filling up with mud right now, just absolutely filling up with mud because there's nothing to hold them back. So, and then you're going to have the same thing in Tulare County with the last fire that we had, that because of the disasters that we've had. And, and the other thing, too, is I'd bring it back to air quality control. And I know you brought it up to air quality control of the rim fire and this last fire over in Kings Canyon. How much, basically, were we out of control, and how many years of pollutions did we do because of those 2 fires, because we did not manage our forest? I mean, that should really be, something on the top of the list, because I've heard figures that, almost a lifetime on the rim fire would be what we had usually in the valley.
It was.
Just that one fire.
One fire was enough. So,
Thank you so much.
Yeah, the good news, Chairman, is that everybody's at the table. Through that executive order, everybody is at the table that needs to be at the table, and including the environmental groups, including the logging groups. Everybody is at the table. They're starting to recognize that the pendulum needs to actually settle in the middle and not be taken left or right. So, and they are looking at this in 3 different time zones. They have the initial attack, which is immediate, which is right now before next summer, what we can do to get some of that fire hazard off the ground. And they're also looking at it in the next year. And then depending on the governor's budget and what funds actually come through via CAL FIRE, what's voted on in June, they're actually looking at this into the next 6 years for planning efforts. So this is only the beginning.
The other question I had before I forget is,
Chairman.
I talked to, I think it was
Chairman.
several months ago.
Chairman.
What's
Chairman.
We have a county council.
We're moving a little bit off topic
Okay, I'm
into
sorry.
a discussion, and I think she's going to
I'll bring it back.
Yeah. I look forward to furthering the discussion. Cheers.
Oh, yeah. I got a question on me. I want a statement. I just wanted to, if anybody didn't see the article in the Fresno Bee over the weekend about our developments in Madera County, and I wanted to thank Eric and Norman for the quotes in there, and I wanted to thank Mark Benjamin for writing a great article on 11716 on the Fresno Bee. Dan Walters also wrote an article on the housing shortage in California, and we're about 650,000 units short right now than what we used to be at the average growth. And and that's about $130,000 a year for the whole state of California. And so if what we've done ahead of time, kind of stepping up, we're ahead of most of the other counties on these developments. That's going to help relieve that. They, like in San Francisco, they've done a whole nationwide rent survey, and 10 of the highest rental markets were in California, of all those for the whole nation. Like in a small one-bedroom apartment in San Francisco, $3,500. I mean, it's crazy. And what he also said here really fits us, because I get this all the time up there, NIMBYs, not in my backyard. And I have that all the time, yet I tell these people, since I've been up there since the 50s, you're all in my backyard. So you've all intruded on my property and stuff, but we got to realize that we got to do that. And it says that NIMBY is rampant in California, sometimes erupting exploitoriously, how you say that, in response to development proposals, sometimes driven by misguided environmentals. So it's just, and we've been sued plenty, just like that article said, but we passed mustard on most of them because we've done our job, our staff has done their job to do this, and if we don't step up the plate like we have done, we would be in left field. So thank you, Eric, thank you, Norm, thank you, our staff, and thank the board for doing all this pre-planning over all these years. So,
okay, any more public comment? Bring it back to board. Any more public comment? Okay. Rhonda, could you read 6A?
You want to do the public hearing?
No, I'll get through these two and then we'll go to public.
Oh, okay.
County Administration Department, Human Resources Operations Division, Amendment to Classification Plan, Sheriff's Department. 1, discussion and consideration of approval to amend the classification plan by adding the class of Sheriff's Commander. 2, discussion and consideration of approval to set the salary for Sheriff's Commander at range 358, $8,131 to $9,883 per month, $97,577 to $118,605 annually, $46.91 to $57.02 per hour. 3, discussion and consideration of approval to designate the Sheriff's Commander class as an overtime exempt pursuant to the Fair Labor Standards Act.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the board. Adrienne Caleb reporting this morning. The sheriff is here to provide details about the plans that he has for this position. I'm here to answer any administrative questions that you may have or procedural questions. The Civil Service Commission did approve the concept and the job specs for this particular classification and the recommendation for the salary placement to present to your board this morning. Sheriff.
Good morning, Board. Jay Varney, Madera County Sheriff. This item is the last item in a process that started with our budget talks last May, where we did some reorganization. The funding for this comes from the fact that we have unfunded the undersheriff position. The recruitment from this will be internal, so there will not be any employees added to the Sheriff's Department. And what it does is it allows us to split the department into two different, one operational, one administrative group, managed by someone who has enough authority to make the decisions on a daily basis, whereas a lieutenant is more of a lieutenant is one step above your first-line supervisor. So I think in the long run, this will pay dividends based on the fact that we've reorganized the Sheriff's Department under process lines as opposed to physical location lines, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Is this a general fund pool from the draw from the fund, or is it subvented?
The money already exists within the general fund, so it actually, I don't have the facts with me from the May budget, but this actually costs less than having 4 lieutenants and an undersheriff, right, because you're going to go down to having 2 commanders and 2 lieutenants.
Okay.
And they are overtime exempt, so in some ways it may even save us some money.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
To approve.
Well, let's. Any questions from the public? Any public comments? Okay, thank you. Bring it back to the board.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second.
And it's also, it says right in our backup is budgeted, so.
Yeah. Okay. First by Brett, second by Dave.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes.
Passes 5-0.
Thank you. Thank you. Good work, Jay. 6B, Rhonda? And then we'll go to hearings.
Fire Department, discussion and consideration of approval for the Madera County Fire Department to move forward with the purchase of an aerial fly apparatus articulating platform for Madera County Fire Station Number 8 with funds that have been provided by Chichancy Gold Casino.
Morning, Matt.
Morning, how are you?
Hey, Matt.
So Madera County would like to move forward, Madera County Fire would like to move forward with the purchase of an articulating platform for Chichancy Casino. Those funds are provided in the MOU between Chichancy and Madera County.
I think it's just important. I know there was some confusion when it says aerial. This is not a helicopter.
Yeah.
I just want to.
No, this is not a helicopter.
This is not a helicopter. It's not a plane.
Piece of fire apparatus that you would
Gets
drive
into
to
the air.
the
Yeah, that's.
goal.
If people want to get on, they can look at the diagram of it too now on our backup. So it's in.
Yeah, we added a diagram to that also.
Looks
Okay,
cool.
any questions from the board? Any other questions?
We talked to Dave. What's the new guy from San Diego?
Chief Allen, Dave Allen.
Dave Allen, yeah.
And Dave apologized, he's not here. He's at a training in Huntsville, Alabama, and Chief Corporation is in a meeting in Sacramento today. So she's.
Well, you're doing a good job. But he was talking about maybe, are we going to still partner up with the Children's Hospital and see if we can do 2 for 1 and get that extra?
Yeah, very, very good question, Supervisor Wheeler. Mr. Chairman, if I may, we are in discussions right now with the hospital, and David Allen is talking with a representative of theirs. They do have the money set aside for an engine, and what we would want to explore is if there's any advantages to the county in ordering 2 of these at a time,
Right.
maybe we can get something additional in the deal. I think one of the next steps, as I understand it, is there's going to be a couple representatives from the county traveling to the plant where these vehicles are made and doing a tour.
Yeah, our training captain and the fleet manager, Steve Gardini, would need to travel back to the plant and look at some specific specifications. Steve Gardini is here, and there's also a representative from the manufacturer here, if there's any specific questions on.
And isn't it still a matter of storage where we put?
He has it
No,
figured out.
we got a firehouse for it.
We have
No,
it
it's-
figured out. We have it figured, Dave figured it out.
So
Okay,
Station
Max?
8 for Chichancy, that fire facility would house this piece of equipment. Once we get to the negotiations or working with Children's Hospital, there need to be some modifications to the current Station 9.
That's the question. Yeah, 8 I knew. I didn't know if 9 was going to be able to house it.
Yeah, we think it'd be some simple modifications, maybe in addition to the front of the building at Station 9, or removing the training room at Station 9.
Max?
Yeah, you're going to send people up there to check out this special equipment. Now, how long will it take when you order it to deliver, Nate? Do you know?
It's typically, for an apparatus that size, it's going to be 365 days.
A year?
Yes, one full year for construction.
Okay. Next question. You're going to have that special equipment there at the fire station, and if you have a fire, you're not going to be using that engine for just a regular fire, are you?
Well, I mean, it's a specialized piece of equipment, and the reason we're looking at an articulating platform for an aerial apparatus is because it can get up to the top of the roof and down over the parapet, which is usually about an 8 to 10 foot drop for the firefighters. So I mean, that's why it's such a specialized equipment. It can be used on a regular structure fire just for the personnel, the pump capacity. So, I mean, it can be used in all types of fire, all types of structural fires.
I understand that, but I mean, you have to use common sense as far as a fire, and this piece of equipment is going to be very expensive. And you run it up and down the roads up there, you're going to wear it out in no time. So you have to be real careful when you apply it or take it to just a regular fire. You don't take the roads up there are not very good.
Yeah, so this vehicle won't be utilized for medical aids and just basic type calls. They still have an engine at the fire station.
Construction fires.
So they'll utilize the regular fire engine to run to the day in and day out calls.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions from the public? Bring it back to the board.
First of all, I just wanted to thank Chichancy for fronting that money like they said they would do, $1 million, and then this year we'll get the rest of it, whatever the balance might be, and I make a motion gladly to purchase this, start the purchase of this fire apparatus.
You have a second? Okay, you have a second, first and a second. Tom and Max, second.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt, very much.
Okay, let's go to item 7, 10 o'clock hearing.
Board of Directors. Board of Directors, Special Districts, County Services Area 3B, Parksdale Public Works Department, Capital Improvement Division. Hearing to consider approval of a resolution annexing territory to Zone of Benefit B with County Service Area Number 3B, Parksdale, self-help subdivision, and establishing assessments and fees thereof, therefore.
Good morning, members of the board. Mr. Chairman, Ahmad Al-Khayat with Public Works. Okay, this item is what we would like to do is to go ahead and annex zone or phase 3 of Parksdale to zone of benefit B. Already phases 1, 2, and 4 have been annexed, and phase 3 is ready to be assessed and lots to be sold and improved. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Any questions from the board?
Not at all, it's just another good project they've been doing out there.
That's a good project there.
It really is.
Any
Ready
questions?
for a motion? I'll make that motion.
Any questions from the public? Make, please, motion.
Motion to approve?
Second?
Max the first and Tom the second.
7A.
Can we have the vote?
Call for the vote. Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you,
7B,
Maud.
please.
Thank you.
Board of Directors, Special Districts, Maintenance District Number 1, Hidden Lakes Estates, Public Works Department, Municipal Services Division. Hearing to consider approval of resolution established increased water service rate and levying the increased rate with Maintenance District Number 1, Hidden Lakes Estates, for the 49 active connections by $25.18 or by 25.18 or 302-16 annually for 5 years to pay the loan component and comply with state funding requirement of revenue to expense ratio of 1.2 to 1. 4 votes required.
Good morning, members of the board. Mr. Chairman, Ahmad Al-Khayat again with Public Works. I have with me here Ms. Alvina Prakash, an engineer for Public Works, and she worked tirelessly on this project. What we have here is we have a water treatment system that needs to be installed for the Hidden Lakes area, MD1. And in order for us to proceed with the funding applications, the state requirement is to perform a Prop 218 protest hearing to increase the rate to make sure that the district can cover the cost of the grant, of the loan component of the grant. The assessment was done by self-help, and it resulted in an increase in monthly cost of $25.18 for 5 years. And once we have this, if this passes, we can go ahead and receive the funds, and we start with the planning phase to go into construction. So this is one of many steps of Prop 218s to bring this system into compliance. And if you have any questions, I'll be.
I just wanted to compliment staff working with the state and with the homeowners to get the information out in a timely manner. And we had a great meeting up there last week where the residents need this. You know, the drinking water is it's not. You can't drink it. So this needs to happen. They're on board, and I just want to compliment staff for working with both the state and the homeowners to get a resolution that everybody is comfortable with.
Thank you. Any other questions? Bring it to the public. bring it back to the board. Pleasure.
With that, I'd like to make a motion approving 7B.
Second.
We have a first by Brett and a second by David. Do we have a motion?
Call for the vote. Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go back to 6C.
C, Board of Supervisors, District Number 1, presentation by district and special district staff regarding Maintenance Districts 10A, Madera Rancho's 1996 bond measure expenditures and the expenditures for the Dublin well.
Ron's got a couple hats today.
Yeah.
Good morning, gentlemen. I'm here also representing District 1, and we're here, I'm just here to just briefly go over the report that was presented in your packet. It was based on board action taken March 10th, 2015, which you directed staff to prepare a comprehensive report to Maintenance District 10A regarding the 96 bond measure expenditures, an explanation of the ACO account based on available documentation, and a report of the Dublin well. So Supervisor Frazier wanted this to be an ongoing living document into which we can put current information for projects that have been completed. The Dublin well is one of those. We have a spreadsheet on that will be updated. It still has some expenditure standing, so rather than putting that draft comprehensive report in with this report, we thought once that's ready, we've established a Dropbox. Just briefly to kind of go over some of the things in the report. One of the things we did was we looked at revenue and expenditures, looked at it a few different ways. We looked at the general ledgers, expenditures, and encumbrances by fiscal years. And this is, since this is actual expenditures under the capital improvements, I was unable to match it up with the bonds approval of contracts. And then, so then we looked at it as the payments to the contractors, the checks that were made. We kind of went through all the board resolutions and pulled out everything that had been approved. But that really didn't break it down by fiscal year, so there really wasn't anything to compare it to there to follow the transactions. And then we looked at breaking it down by expenditures based on information to show expenditures of the bond monies, and that's kind of what you see in the report. That was probably the best way we could kind of show where the money went. The auditor's office has provided hundreds of pages of general ledger information in response to requests for information. I have a stack. I did not include that in the report, but he actually printed out all the expenditures based on IFAS, and it was massive amounts of information in response to Records Request Act back in 2014. There are no financials for the special districts in the auditor's office. There are accounts showing revenue and disbursements with no totals, subtotals, or balance sheets items. Detailed information goes back 7 years as required by state, so the accounting information goes back to 1996 in summary form. So in 2014, the auditor's office prepared a summary of the cash schedules, which is in the backup, to show that all the money is accounted for from 1996 to 2014. And it shows it in revenue categories, expenditure categories by year. The definition of the ACO account is, I can just basically read that from the report. Because we found information, the Accumulated Capital Outlay Fund was established to accumulate funds for future non-routine operating expenses, which might be emergencies or planned expenditures in capital projects. It's considered an asset depreciation account or savings account that can be used to pay for major repairs unforeseen in the regular annual operations and maintenance budget. It is from this fund that money for capital projects approved by the Board of Supervisors is transferred to the MD-10A Improvement Fund. Some have called this fund the Pipeline Replacement Fund. While it was obvious that the pipe replacement was a priority at the time the fund was established, before the current water source issue occurred, staff cannot find official documents in county records mandating fund for or restricting to pipeline replacement. The first reference to the ACO account is in January 10, 1996, a memorandum from the county engineer to the Debt Service Advisory Committee, in which the engineer mentions creating an ACO fund in the amount of $220,000 for improvement contingency. The annual report and rates for the district containing the FY 96-97 special districts budget to the Board of Supervisors states that the ACO will be for future well and associated pipe construction. On page 8.2 of the technical evaluation and rate study for MD-10A, Madera Rancho states the county collects $25.50 quarterly for each of the connected parcels as the accumulated capital outlay funds. The ACO funds are held in a reserve account and are used for repair and replacement of capital facilities associated with the water system. The current analysis for hooking up the MD-10A, the board has never, as the directors, has never taken any formal action on a hookup policy, so we don't have that. There's been analyses that have been in the progress, have been drafted, but nothing's been presented to the community or to the board. So, and then the Dublin well I mentioned, we have a spreadsheet that shows all the accounting of all the funds expended, and then also staff has on hand the hard copies of all the invoices and all the billings. So if there's any question as to how we spent the money from this time going forward, we have all that information. And then the number of wells. So since the county took over the operations, 4 new wells have been added. The new Fender and Charlton wells were added and came online in the late 90s with a combined production of 1,600 gallons per minute.
And how many, 2 of them?
4 total.
There's 4 total.
Right.
That's what I never could figure
but
out.
But two were in the late 90s.
Okay.
The Kensington well was added 10 years later in 2009 with a gallons per minute of 600 plus. The Dublin well was added in 2010, adding another 800 plus. And then there's ongoing plans now for projects in that district as well. So in May of 1999, according to the county engineer, he explained that, kind of gave an explanation of where the 5 wells came from. He explained that in order for Boyle to develop cost estimates for the report and evaluating the condition of the water system and identifying the desired improvements to bring the system up to various levels of acceptability prior to the county purchasing the water system, it was necessary to estimate the production capacity of 1 well. That estimate was 550 gallons per minute. The estimated number of wells then becomes the additional gallons needed per minute divided by 550 gallons per minute, or 5 wells. Once Boyle determined the number 5, the total estimated cost for well construction was determined by multiplying the estimated cost of a new 550-gallon well per minute. So in searching for the number of wells, there is inconsistencies. If you look at the resolution, if you look at the engineer's report, the bond document, the notice to the ratepayers, but in the report, I did note that even though there are inconsistencies, one thing held true, and that was the gallons per minute that we were looking for the district. So that being said, all this information is informational only. It's all based on documents that we pulled from board action, from the treasurer's office, from special districts. And so hopefully this will kind of answer some of the questions back from 1996. I mean, if you look at some of the documents, you can understand why the constituents are concerned that there should be 5 wells, but then also look at other documents and what the county was looking at and providing the best service to the district. They're looking at gallons per minute. So it was an interesting task. And that's it. There's just tons of information available, and it's all online as well.
Yeah, I think. Norm, what's this one? Oh, I think I didn't know Norm was.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Supervisor Frazier, for commissioning this. I just want to say Rhonda has put together a well-researched report. What's good about it was, and again, Norman Allender here, Director, and Ahmad and Phil's here from Special Districts if there's any other questions. But this fresh look from an outsider I think was very important as I coming into this expanded role we're in. I didn't have a big role in how these things happen, and I wanted to look at things fresh. The CAO has encouraged me to do so, as has the board. I think this is a step in, really a big step in the right direction to bring a level of transparency. And, you know, the 2 people sitting here right now really understand the situation and are working to make it better. Absolutely. The current things going on with the state are really good. We met with the school district yesterday with Andy Alvarado about some opportunities. And so the amount of activity and the amount of interaction is really good right now between the county and Golden Valley School District. And, of course, there is a project at Valley Team Ranch that's going on, the state is working on, and it has some effect in the area. So I just want to say we're here to answer any ongoing questions for special districts, but I just want to thank Rhonda for doing such a thorough job and putting this information out there. Thanks.
Right. Yeah, I think, you know, this is very eye-opening going back and looking through and realizing that we can do better going forward. And, some of these things, we have to tighten up these resolutions and staff's understanding of it and how we implement after the fact. And then getting that information out to people once we choose if it's an and/or, letting people know, did we choose the and or did we choose the or? Is it, we didn't realize, we're going to drop by gallons per minute after we had what we thought was, going to be an endless water supply, and we got to the 2,771 gallons per minute with the 3 wells that we had put in. And then in the drought situations, all of a sudden one goes down, and we're not meeting that gallons per minute. So now we need to get up to the 5 so that we can follow through with what was promised to the people of MD10A. There is, you go back and look at some of these audits or the financials, and you read them, and they make no sense. There's just numbers on a page with no cross-reference, and I was hoping we'd be able to get cross-references, and we just can't find them. The auditing systems back then were terrible. I think this has shed some more light that our special districts need to be run better and more efficient. And sometimes they just weren't able to back then because there wasn't good software or whatever it was to be able to pull up this information. But we need to do better. I think this is a good way to start learning how we're going to do better and how we're going to be more transparent for the ratepayers. And when we promise something, we have to deliver on it. We just have to. That has to be what this board represents, is if you say you're going to do something, it's done. And if we choose an and/or, the people need to understand it and be comfortable with it and know that that's what we chose. So, I want to compliment Rhonda for chasing down so many different people. I want to compliment the staff for, this took a long time. I was maybe a little green when I said, let's get it done in 60 to 90 days, and lesson learned. As a redhead, usually I under-promise and over-deliver. This time I was well off on that. But thank you to the patience of the MD10A ratepayers in waiting for this report to come out. There's a lot of paper to go through. Like I said, this is a living document. We already have more documents right here from Linda Brazé. These can be put into it, but we need the whole document, where it came from, and we can put it into the report. The more information we can have, the better that your government can be for you. So thank you to everybody who's involved in it, and I do want to thank the ratepayers of MD10A, even though it sometimes takes up a lot of my voicemail box and different time. But if you don't ask these questions, we can't get these answers, and we can't be better. So thank you for your feedback and your continuing persistence to get the answers that we all need.
Tom?
Yeah, I wanted to thank staff on this, because even like the number of wells, reading it last night, I wasn't sure how many wells they did have out there. from the 2 wells that did almost 2,500 gallons a minute to where they had 2 more. And, since I've been on this board, it seems like they have brought stuff up out there, that and MD95, and this is the best I've seen for telling us what it is. It was neat just reading it and seeing how far it went back.
Yeah.
And the stuff that's happened that wasn't reported. Just like we were talking about some of our actions in closed session, some of the stuff that's happened to us that never should have happened. Mm-hmm. Like this. I mean, some of the things that never got in front of the board. It never got. I just don't understand some of that now. I think our staff is so much better now compared to what it used to be just even 5 years ago. It's just unbelievable. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's, a lot of the times, staff is gone, and staff said something in a meeting, or staff sent out a memo, something that would contradict, what either the board's action was, or what another member prior to that person had said. And we have to be better. That's the only way we're going to be able to serve.
We are.
Yeah, I think we are. And I think this can help us to continue with MD-10A to follow through with the things that needed to be done and actually start working towards some resolution to some of this.
Anything more from the board? Public comment? No public comment?
I was just sitting there in total shock at what I just heard. Linda Brzee, Madeira Ranchos. I find it a little bit disconcerting that I have a document here that has been in my possession for a long time. It says a notice of public meeting and hearing on proposed new assessment by the County of Madeira. This is a public notice, okay? Are you trying to...
Which document?
This is a document from the Clerk of the Board of Supervisors. It was received back in March of 1996. And it's a notice of a public hearing and meeting. It's in the packet I gave you.
Which page?
It's page 1. It's about down, I didn't really have time because I went through all of my notes and stuck these in here. But it's one of the ones that's the notice of public hearing, and it's down about halfway in that packet I gave you. It's right behind information on the ACO report.
Notice is hereby given.
Mm-hmm.
96.
That's a public hearing notice to everybody. In that public hearing notice, it outlines Plan A. In Plan A, it says drilling, equipping, and developing 5 new water wells. You cannot put that in a public hearing document to the public. That's a notice. In other words, you're saying that this is lying. This is not right, because that clearly states in this public notice that this is to determine whether or not we were going to go with Plan A or Plan B. Plan B, which had the 4 water wells. If you look below that, you see it was 4, which we chose not to vote on. We chose Plan A. But it outlined that that's what we were going to get. Okay, this is just one of numerous documents. Here's a letter dated from Patty Logaluso, March 12, 1996. Patty states, under Plan A, 5 new wells would be added, and new regulatory fire flow standards as required by subdivisions. This is our supervisor, who I love dearly. She was a wonderful supervisor. She did lots of things for the ranchos. Okay? She sent us lots of letters out like this. I kept every one of them that Patty sent out. And she was very clear at the meetings. Unfortunately, I'm one of the only people that's still left that went to those meetings or ever that cared. I was at every meeting that we had. The engineers were there. They told us 5 new water wells if we decide to go under Plan A. They asked us, do we want the fire flow? Yes, we do. We need the fire flow. If you get the fire flow, then you need 5 wells. You have to have 5 wells. Plan B will only give you 4. We'll drill you 4, but you won't have the fire flow. These are at public meetings that we held in the ranchos at the Maywood Center, Webster School. Okay, and I was there at those meetings. Okay, so it was never an issue of how many wells we were going to get. It was always, if we voted for Plan A, we would get 5 new water wells. Boyle made that very clear. How that got misinterpreted under Boyle's report is beyond me, because it was never misinterpreted during our meetings. Boyle decided that in order to get the 2,000 whatever gallons of water, which is what they talked about, that it would come from 5 wells pumping at 550 gallons. That's where the 5 wells came in. And also what we talked about was future. They talked about the future. Patty talked about the future all the time. In order for us to get this going and have the water and the wells we need for the future for the Madeira Ranchos, we need to go ahead, assess us right now, and put in the 5 new wells. This was all talked in our meetings. The public was there. We were there. There was much discussion. We had wonderful discussions. And so when you have a public notice that tells you that you either vote for Plan A or Plan B, and they clearly state what you're going to get, how is someone going to come years later and say that, oh, this wasn't what we were talking about. We were talking about something entirely different. The assessment pages are in here that talks about how much we were assessed under Plan A. Plan A was confirmed. I even kept a copy of my old form that I sent in where we voted. Rancho's residents were asked to vote on Plan A or Plan B. We voted for Plan A. That's what we voted for. There's a document in my packet that shows that the residents voted for Plan A. It's there. So just because the county doesn't have not kept great records or are not kept up to snuff, that does not mean that this stuff did not occur. And it's clear that Plan A said 5 wells. So let's not go to trying to pretend that it's some pumping so much water or whatever the verbiage is, because it was very clear. And I don't want to hear that anymore. And also, common sense would dictate to all of us, if your account was an operations and maintenance account, you don't need to set aside another $8.50 for anything. All the funds stay within that account. And if it's a capital outlay account for all improvements, just merely take the money from those improvements. You don't need to set aside an $8.50 account. We were told once again in our meetings, your pipes are old. They're going to break. In the future, you guys are going to have massive pipe leaks out there in the ranchos. You're not going to have the money to fix them. MDTNA will not be able to fix these pipes when we start having rupturing of pipes. So it's best now to set aside this $8.50 for your pipe replacement. Nobody's to touch these funds. It's supposed to be put there to replace the old broken leaky pipes.
When needed, based on your...
Right.
Yeah.
But they said 100,000. We could approximately get 100,000 a year from the ratepayers at that time, which is 916 with the standby accounts. This is more than that now, but that was at the time. We could accumulate about $100,000 a year. And you don't need to set aside another account for something if it's all one large account. I mean, it makes no sense that you don't need to do that. There's no reason to set aside it. It was there for what the engineer told us it should be there for. The $850 to pay for your broken, torn up, raggedy old pipes that you have currently and will break in the future. And that's in my documents. In 3 of the pages that I gave you, it alluded to the ACO account for that reason. You see nothing in the ACO account anywhere that says ACO was for anything other than pipeline replacement and leaky broken pipes.
Other than in other than other documents within the county.
That you
have
that you change.
So we can take our one document that says it otherwise and say the same thing to you.
No, you changed it. You changed it later on and decided that you were going to verbalize that. You made no resolution. It was not voted on here in the county. It was not anything voted on. Nobody changed that. It was from one document that someone decided that they were going to change the wording of what our ACO account was created for. And just answer me the question, what did we need it for? If it was all supposed to be operations and maintenance, what did we need a separate account for? Just answer that question for me. What did we need it for? It wouldn't have been any reason, Brett.
What do you mean it wouldn't be?
What do we need an additional $850 laid aside for if it was all one account that was for all the capital improvements?
You're saying there's two different...
It's right in the documents you have. Said there are two accounts. There's two separate accounts.
ACOs are set up to be able to purchase new infrastructure.
That's not what it says.
That's what it says in other ones, Linda.
That's because you changed it.
We didn't do none of that. It's all years ago, and we can't fix that now. All we're trying to do is go forward and make this right for you.
Right, and my point is that if we were told to vote on something, and if we were told...
How long ago was that?
It doesn't matter, Tom.
Yes, it does. We
Supervisor
can't change
Wheeler,
that. We cannot change
okay,
that.
I'm not here to change anything because the money was spent a long time ago. Yeah. Everything was done.
And during what I just said was that it was done. We said different things about different things. There was inconsistencies, and we can't keep doing that going forward.
But we're sitting here today still doing it.
You're sitting here still doing it.
No, I'm not. Rhonda just said that it was based on this and that, but nobody's.
No,
all we ever wanted was acknowledgement.
There's inconsistencies and different things that were said about all these different accounts, and now moving forward, we have to tighten the four corners of our agreements with our different districts.
The reason that ratepayers were upset at a lot of the meetings, and one of the reasons that never was any acknowledgement. All I ever asked, to acknowledge these documents, which stated what the ACO account was originally created for, And if you changed it later, that's fine. You already did that. But all I'm asking is that why it can't be acknowledged that it was originally set aside for that, and it was acknowledged that we were promised 5 wells, and that we voted on the 5 wells. That's all we ever asked, was somebody in the county acknowledge that that was originally what was promised to us. And when we had the bond, the assessment was for 5 wells and the other. That's all we ever asked for, was acknowledgement that that actually occurred.
This is what this report is about, is to acknowledge past transgressions or not practices.
Okay.
Past practices.
Hey, let's, the 3 minutes, your 3 minutes
Okay,
is
I'm
up.
sorry.
And I think you've made your point very well, and I appreciate you coming up and making your point, Brett.
Yeah.
And I think what we've done is basically on past items that we've done like this and voted, other boards have voted like this, we're trying to correct all that. And I think with Supervisor Frazier and our staff, I think we're correcting that with this measure. So thank you for your comments. Next.
We're acknowledging it, Linda. We're not hiding from it, is what we're...
Is this going?
Chuck?
Is it on? My name is Chuck LaRue, Madera Ranchos. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Brett, thanks for bringing this forward. You were on March 10th at the Board of Supervisors meeting. You brought this up. You had cooperation from everybody. Mr. Rogers, Mr. Wheeler said thanks. This is a good move. At that time, you said that this was going to be a comprehensive accounting report for MD10A going back to its inception. Okay, comprehensive is complete, full, extensive, thorough, all-inclusive. Yesterday, at your office, I was told that it's only covering the bond and assessment, that it doesn't have the information on how the Dublin well is paid for. Rhonda said that the Board of Supervisors instructed her to only do this limited beginning part.
No, she also said at that meeting, Chuck, that the Dublin well was going to be, when it was finalized, all of that would be in from the inception of where all that money came from to the finalized report when it was all done paid for. We're still waiting on that.
You're still waiting to get paperwork on how the money was funded for Dublin?
Waiting for it to finalize so that we can do the full...
So you're going to have a full comprehensive report going from 95, 96 up until 2014 like you said we're going to have?
Yes.
That's what you said at the 3/18/15 Madera Ranchers Water System Committee meeting.
And that's what I said yesterday, too.
So we are still going to get that?
Yes.
The reason we asked for this was for some accountability, because we kept getting different stories from different Madera County employees. Sometimes they're contradictory. Okay? I've gotten contradictory statements on how this thing was paid for, the Dublin. Your engineer, Ken Vang, told me that it was paid for initially with $1.2 million left over from this assessment. Nobody else says that. Philip Toller says that it was financed from the 2013-2014, or was it the 2014-2015 budget, when you guys pulled out the $1.3, $1.4 million out of that ACO account. So this is what we have been asking for, some paperwork. Brett's bringing it up. But it's confirming the confusion that was presented by Madera County employees, contradicting the original agreement and contract with the ratepayers that put up the money. That's what we object to. That's what we've been challenging. That's what we've been asking you people to be a little bit more forthright and accountable to us with the $500,000 a year that you take from us. Okay? Thank you.
And Chuck, I appreciate your comments, and as you know, some of the people that you just mentioned is not working for the county anymore.
I've heard that for 7 years. That person doesn't work here anymore. Anything that they said to you, we can't document, so you're a liar.
I'm not saying that.
That's what I've heard.
Well, that's fine.
That's what I hear all the
That's not
time.
what I'm saying. What I'm saying is because of inefficiencies, some people are not here anymore, and
Yep, but that's the story
and
that
I think
all your
the
people
staff,
use.
the staff that we have right now, and I think Rhonda I mean, she's a ledge aide, and now she's our board of clerk. We're moving people up in positions that are basically better than what we had before, and I think that's what we're moving towards, so we can get this. I think our auditing department is a hell of a lot better than 26 years of audit department that we had before, and I really feel we're moving forward, and I appreciate your comments, and
That auditor part is an interesting thing. How did the auditor have a job, get paid, and not audit the special districts for years? And your coworkers never caught on to that.
And
How
vice
did that
versa,
happen?
we have $416,000 some out there in fees that's never been paid. So, I mean, the last auditor found.
Yeah,
So-
but how did the auditor get away with that for years?
You guys voted him in. Because you voted him in.
That's the kind of stuff that we've been objecting to. We wanted you to tighten up your act a little bit and be a little bit more accountable to the people that you're taking money from. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Chuck. Thank you. You voted for a good one this time. Yep. Anybody else? Public comment? Bring it back to the board?
It's just
It's
information.
Just,
isn't
yeah,
it?
just informational.
Yeah. Thank you, Rhonda. Thank you,
So,
staff.
Anyway, we are moving forward. We are being more open. I think Brett's done a great job, and you guys have done a great job of bringing this. I mean, let's use this as an example for the rest of the, our districts and stuff, and let's start really working hard on trying to get the openness and what's going on. It's confusing. It is so confusing. So, thank you. Okay, let's take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back. 6D, please. 6D.
6D,
6D.
D.
Like in dog.
Board of Supervisors, Department, District Number 3. Discussion and consideration of a letter of support for an application for the Urban Homeless Veterans Reintegration Program Grant on behalf of Vocational Rehabilitation Specialist, Inc.
Good morning, members of the board. Chairman Farinelli. I'm Robert Jeffers, District Chief of Staff for Supervisor Farinelli. Earlier this month, the board was approached for a support letter from VRSI in regards to this specific grant through HUD. Over this period of time, we did some vetting because we'd never heard of this organization, along with our Veteran Service Office. They are a Monterey-based organization that is looking to expand into Fresno, Madera. As their title says, they're vocational training with a focus on homeless vets. There is no liability to the county in terms of supporting this organization. This grant they would be completely independent with it, and the recommended action is to support it. I can answer any questions.
I just want to add to that, we vetted these people pretty good. Charles Honeycutt, myself, and Robert. They are a long, I think they've been in business for 14 years, was it, or something like that? They've done a good job. They sent us their records, that what they did with the vets. What the problem we're having right now, if you remember right, we had a ceremony over at the library to help the vets get into schools and different jobs and stuff like that. It's a volunteer program. These people will end up taking that program over and know how to vent the vets, since they've been doing it already. So I thought it would be and with Charles' approval, be a very good thing for Madera, and we can see how it works. And if it doesn't work, they don't get the grant next year. So.
And Mr. Chairman, I would be remiss if I didn't also thank District 5 Chief of Staff Brittany Dyer for a lot of her research, as well as the Clerk of the Board, Rhonda Cargill. They did a lot of preliminary research on this group.
Bring it up to public. Tom?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, if we get it, what kind of dollars would Madera County get? Because Fresno's in it too, right? We're a partner on it.
It's the same organization. They're applying for both counties, so we don't have a dollar figure on that at this point.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Bring it back to the board.
I make a motion we approve item 6D gladly.
You have a second?
We have a first and a second. Tom first, Max second.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes, and thank you.
Vote passes 5-0.
Great job.
Thank you, Robert.
6E.
6C, Community and Economic Development Department and Public Works Department. Discussion and consideration of information provided in staff's report and take action as necessary to implement consistent conservation for all county-operated community water systems or any desired modification to the county's water conservation ordinance. 3 potential courses of action are outlined below, presented in order of staff's recommendation. 1, consideration to implement MCC 13.55.025D, Stage 3.5 of the Water Conservation Ordinance in all county-operated community water systems, which would prohibit indoor watering except for trees and shrubs on drip systems. Or 2, consideration to amend Chapter 13.55 of the Water Conservation Ordinance, allowing provisions to water 1 day per week in all county-operated community water systems. Or 3, consideration to retain the current restriction level, MCC 13.55.025C, Stage 3, allowing a 2-day per week watering schedule during the winter to all county-operated community water systems.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. Norman Allender here, Planning Director. We have Ahmad Al-Kayat sitting in his role as County Engineer right now. We have many titles, and of course our District's Manager, Phil Toller. In April 2015, the Governor issued a series of orders to address the ongoing drought and to reduce water usage by 25% statewide. In May of 2015, the State Water Resources Board implemented mandatory conservation targets One thing is Madera County is considered an urban water supplier because we have more than 3,000 connections, even though they are discontiguous, not with each other. So, and in fact, Phil's trying to reverse that. He's working very hard to try to change that designation. So that's one of the things we're doing on that front. We were put in Tier 9. And the ranges were from 4 to 36% from the state, and we got Tier 9, 36%, so we got the highest. The emergency regulation directs water purveyors to electronically report, which we do. Let me just talk a little about our programs, and we did this a lot over the last year. I want to thank Judy Gutierrez and the planning department. She did a lot of effort putting together water conservation. We said when we raised the well permits that we would put these programs about how people can do good landscaping, those things. So we had those handouts available at our front counter, and we had a staff person work on that specifically. That's the most effective way is outdoor watering. However, public education has been something we've been working on. Water conservation rebates, again, we try to help folks understand where the dollars are and help them get information and help them get things that are outside of our organization. And then enforcement of water regulations. And so, in the new transition we have here in my role, I've also been heading our code enforcement officers who, when we use the word code enforcement, let me define that a little better. They're zoning enforcement. The code enforcement and planning's role is zoning enforcement. However, we have used them in other roles. We many times use them in lots of other roles, helping the sheriff with lots of things, working on other programs, and they've been working on water conservation as a part of their program as well. Even though it's outside of zoning enforcement, we just want more eyes out there to find folks who are breaking the rules. Again, during the winter season, it's difficult, and Ahmad can put up, Sarah, we got a little chart from the staff report, if you could show there on the camera. This is in your staff reports, folks, and so it's in the backup. And it shows how in the summer, I'm sorry, that isn't it. That is, we want the camera, I apologize. Thank you. So it shows about in the summer, essentially it's about the delta or the difference, right? And in the summer, in normal years, the watering rates are much higher, and it's much easier to achieve. In the winter, people already don't water in the first place, and so it's much more difficult to achieve those results. So in the winter, it is more complex. We do understand that the state of California is currently considering revising the regulations so that we can, again, I'm not suggesting we take a different course, but the state is currently revising those regulations. We have put out here, again, 2013 is our baseline year. So there's 3 courses of action. There are two, there we go. There are 2, and here's a chart. This is from your backup. We just wanted to have it so the public could see it, if those who don't have the backup. And you can see the difference in the reductions and the compliance, whether we got a compliance or not. It has been a bit difficult to obtain because we don't have a lot of community landscaping. So in jurisdictions where they have a lot of medians and parks and those things, we don't have those in the first place to take advantage of. So option 1 is there's 2 districts, and these are only for county-owned districts, that are on stage 3.5. That's Parkwood and MD10. And that has to do with funds and the health of the system. And because we haven't met our mandates heretofore, that is the staff recommendation, and we understand the concern about that, but again, that's based on numerical data and those things. Option 2 is, and that is already in ordinance, and so it wouldn't require an ordinance change. Option 2, which is to go to 1 day a week in our county water systems, which is what the city of Madera currently has, and you can see the targets by month. Sorry, it took a minute to switch that over. So you can see our 36% target was very difficult to make even in the warm months. And so option 2 goes to 1 day a month for all districts. And I apologize.
A week.
Well, I'm sorry, 1 day a week. Yeah, I'm sorry, once every quarter only. No, one day a week. And we've confirmed because of the 2 districts in 3.5. And I'll let Phil Toller go ahead and explain real quickly about MD10 and Parkwood and his discussions with folks there about the ability to do so.
Yeah, as your board's aware, we do have some funding agreements and grant applications with the state right now for both of those districts. However, in discussion moving forward with some of these options for your board, we have confirmed with the state that they would not be in jeopardy of any of these grant applications by as long as there's still a restriction, which 1 day a week would be a restriction. All these options today for you do qualify as restrictions. So We wouldn't be in jeopardy of losing grant applications for any of the projects going forward in MB10 or Parkwood. And if you have any further questions on that, I'd be available for any questions.
And this ties into another item we'll talk about a little more later, the request to reestablish the intertie for Parkwood with the City of Madera, so I won't go too in-depth to that. We'll discuss it probably more in-depth at that time. And then option 3 is to stay at 2 days a week, which is currently where we are in all districts except for the aforementioned MD10 and Parkwood. And so that would be the least disruption to customers. It's already an ordinance. So option 2 requires an ordinance change. Option 1 and 3 do not require an ordinance change. We wanted to make sure we reached out and understood where we were going with that. If the board intends to go with the ordinance change for option 2, we'll have to be back before you, and we'll have more details, obviously, of what that means, and we certainly don't want to jeopardize funding to improve some of these things, but our indications from these agencies, which, by the way, we're working very well with Cassie and the folks at the state. So that's the staff report right now on the topic. We're available for questions if you have any. Thank you.
Brett?
Mine's more of a comment. You know, looking at something, we need to do something, and it's because this becomes a cumulative. Am I correct? So, like, if we hit 24%, then that means the next month we have to actually hit 50, right?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, so this needs to be something we need to do countywide. Everyone needs to feel the pain, as it were, just like they had to do in the City of Madera, City of Fresno, County of Fresno, City of Clovis. Everyone has adopted these. Mainly, it's like a 1 day a week watering. Parkwood and the ranchos have been, they've been forced to do that. They've had to stay on their 3.5, even though the ranchos had the ability to, with the Dublin well coming online, the pressures were up. They were able to, but we had to not take them off of 3.5 just so that we can get some bit of savings. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so, in the interest of fairness, it should be spread out across everyone. It should either be 1 and everybody goes to 3.5 and no one can water, but I'd like to believe that our constituents are responsible and will stick to the 1 day a week, and I think we can we achieve these water goals if everybody is at 1 day a week?
I'd have to say it's unlikely we're going to totally achieve the goal at 1 day a week. I think that it's a step in the right direction, and having heard the regulators from the state, who are the ones who are going to do that, they want to see that we're doing something. They realize that not everybody can do it, and that's why there are some adjustments being made right now. But that's why staff recommended 3.5, because if ultimately if we're going to get there, that's where it has to be, and I know that's very painful. I suspect the sentiment is for option 2 of 1 day a week, which we would have to come back for an ordinance change. Yes, but so these are very difficult to achieve. Yes, sir, very difficult.
No, if we went with the option 2 and everyone went to the 1 day a week, what kind of education and outreach can we do to educate people and say, look, you can do it 1 day a week, but you don't need to. When there's rain, don't turn them on. Don't turn them on just for the sake of it. What can we do to educate the public in making sure that they're still conserving water even though they're at only 1 day a week, so that they're not flooding their property that 1 day?
Exactly. So I'm getting the answer as you're finishing your question. I apologize. Yes, we do outreach. Here's what I would suggest we do if we have the 1 day a week. We will have to increase the level in enforcement. One is that if we don't already have the ordinance, I would love to have direction from the board today to specifically say, if you're watering your lawn and it's raining, it's a prima facie violation, right? So that I would love that direction. If it's not there, I would love to have that direction as well to come back in our ordinance change. But number 2 is when you go to 1 day a week, and we've heard this, it's sort of like the speed bump argument, right? All they do is go slow and then speed up faster, right? All people are going to do is water at 2 a.m. and then water at 8 a.m. and then, And so we certainly would encourage folks to, and in the areas where they've had more restrictions, we'll have to increase patrols, because we understand the nature of what people are going to do. People are clever and they want to work around things and make things happen. But, I'm a big fan, as you've heard me say it, not in a while. I think everybody should move towards not having yards as much as they've had in the past. I can tell you I've been on stage 3.5 since August. I haven't turned my sprinklers on since August of last year. And so it's an important situation. We all need to make do that. Phil just told me it is a state mandate that you can't water in the rain. So increased enforcement in addition to the education. If we go to the 1 day a week, we're going to have to be monitoring it better because ultimately people may overwater on the 1 day.
Yeah, and then sorry, this is my last part of it. So if it is the 1 day a week for the yard, is the trees and shrubs that are on a drip system, is that 1 day a week, or is that still at 2 days a week?
That will have to be included in the code amendment, and that's basically...
The answer is we can include it there. In other words, it would probably be good if we clarified you can do watering of your turf, outdoor watering 1 day a week. However, drip and micro sprinkler could be allowed more often than that. If that's something the board would like us to pursue in this ordinance, we could do so.
And nothing in the rain.
And nothing in the rain, which is already a state mandate from what I understand. But it is particularly frustrating. Quite frankly, my neighbor the other day, it was raining, and he has the nicest lawn on the block, and it was raining, and his sprinkler was running. So, yeah.
Norman, talking about water, I live in the city, and I haven't watered in 2 months. My lawn is green. And the people across the street, I think it cut off the sprinklers. It went dry during the summer. But now with all this rain, it's turned green by itself, So I would recommend that we go to 2. Parkwood over there, they've been on 3 for the last 6 months. For 8 months, and that neighborhood doesn't look very good. It looks terrible, and they're frustrated. But if we had 3 watering the shrub, the trees, that type of thing. We should go. I recommend that we go to 2. Let them water 1 day a week. They're not going to be watering right now because you don't have to.
But some people do.
Some people do, but that's not the majority. It's people that will do it anyway. They'll break their ordinances. But I recommend 2, and then. Let's see what happens. We'll monitor the residents, and it gets out of hand. Then, of course, we can have a town hall meeting and explain the situation, why we have to take other actions.
And I can say, Supervisor Rodriguez, I'm pretty sure in MD10 you'll have oversight, but I can almost guarantee you in Parkwood, because I know a lot of the folks there, if someone is breaking the rules, if they get that watering back, we'll get a lot of phone calls. You'll have a good amount of self-policing.
You have a subdivision on both sides, and they water, like the city, you can water twice a week. Now it's 1 day a week on Sundays. But, and they say, well, why? We're pulling from the same source. They're watering twice a week, can't even water once a week. So it's terrible, and we have to be fair about it, but analyze the situation in the future, and we have to make other actions. Hey, we'll do it. Hey?
Tom? Yeah, I personally, I think we should go to number 1, so just for trees and shrubs only. I'd like to see everybody get rid of the lawn and just put gravel and dirt and what have you. Look at my brother lived in Mesa, and that's all they had. There wasn't one lawn and 1 block there. So that's my own opinion. Right now, we got to realize we're in a desert area, and this is not a place to grow lawns. It just really isn't. And I think if you put nice rock and stuff out there, it's just as good looking as grass. My opinion.
Yeah. Dave? Yeah, the fact remains that shorter watering periods are really the key to this thing. If you want something to live, you water it for a shorter period of time, and you do it a couple of times a week. But reality sets in when you think about people's habits, and if they're allowed to water more than once a week, they're not going to set their sprinklers on a shorter period of time or their drip on a short period of time. But that really is the key. I don't know what we can do to educate the public on the fact that you don't need to drown it, just let it get a little bit of, even 2 periods a week at 10 minutes takes care of a tree. That'll help it. Yeah, it'll live, very well. But
I have a drip on mine, so.
if we could attack the situation from an education standpoint, I don't know how.
Yeah,
that
there needs to
would,
be an education.
Has to be.
Education, enforcement.
Well, we have 100 years of abuse that we've done.
Exactly.
And to retrain, our teachers and our educators and our everything else, it's going to be a major problem. This water thing is it becomes personal because people really, look at Palm Springs, the greenest place on earth, because they have the Colorado River right under it, and they're basically telling the state to go to hell, don't even pay attention to us because our water's not dropping. So, but I agree. We need to do something. I agree with what Mr. Toller is saying. We are not going to meet the goal. No matter if we turn it off, we're not going to meet the goal. So, to keep the trees alive and, as we continue, just because we have all this snow, we're still in a drought, and we're going to be in a drought for several years. So, anyway, anything from the public? Back to the board.
Do you want a motion?
This is just an advisory, right?
Yeah, we're actually seeking direction for something, yes.
Oh, I'd like to investigate 1 and 2.
Okay,
Max is
okay. I'll make that motion. I make a motion we approve 2, which is consideration to amend Chapter 13.55 of the Water Conservation Ordinance, allowing provisions to water one day per week in all county-operated community water systems, and continue the drip system.
Yes, sir.
And with the education, and if we're not meeting our requirements, then we can come back at another time?
Yes, sir. Just to do an ordinance amendment, it'll be at least another 30 days until we're back here again. Ordinance amendments take a little bit of time. So, yes, we'll be working through that. We will do what we can to reduce the time. There are, it requires 2 public hearings, but all those public hearings don't have to be here. So for the first reading, sometimes we do use the Planning Commission for those things. We've done that in the past. So as long as we're making sure we're satisfying those requirements, and I'll work with Regina and Doug Nelson to make sure we're good on that. So we'll do what we can to be as quick as possible and be as responsive. But option 2 requires an ordinance amendment, and so we will move forward with that and also make sure that we're addressing what you can do on your drip, too, as well. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, you have a second.
We have a second, first by Max and a second by Brett. Can we have the vote?
I'll call vote. Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
No, I think we should go to number 1.
Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes.
We may end up there, Tom.
Vote passes 4-1.
Okay, let's do 6F and maybe go to lunch.
County Administration Department, discussion and consideration of approval of resolution of intent pertaining to the election being held on November 8, 2016, for the purpose of submitting to the voters a measure to adopt a transactions and use sales tax to fund and maintain essential public safety services.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Eric Fleming, County Administrator. As your board is aware, public safety is a top priority, not only for your board but the public. And for years, we have had challenges in fully funding positions in the Sheriff's Department, for example. I can't even think of a time when we've carried any less than 10 deputy positions unfunded and vacant. And then in the fire department, we have one of the lowest staffing ratios in the state of California. We also have one of the longest standing agreements, so that's why I think we've been able to get by with that. But what we've been faced with is even more of a challenge in that we haven't been able to address some of those deficiencies because of the recent fiscal crisis. And so we're still regaining our footing from that. So what your board last year had expressed a specific interest in looking at new ways to fund sheriff and fire services. One of the concepts that was discussed was a dedicated public safety tax. Last year, an ad hoc committee was formed. 2 supervisors, the sheriff, the fire department, administration, county council, met a number of times. We also were joined by someone who is an expert in this area, who had worked on our transportation Measure T. And then also, we have been consulting with a member of our community who is very familiar with these issues as well. In addition, your board received presentations from the Sheriff Department and the Fire Department on how they might use additional funds that would be generated from a dedicated public safety tax. And again, I want to emphasize that what is being discussed in concept, at least, is a dedicated public safety tax that would go specifically to the Sheriff Department and the Fire Department in some ratio that may change over time. Those things haven't been solidified. This tax would not replace existing general fund that are going to finance either of these departments. And today's request, before we got too far down the road in planning discussions with the ad hoc committee or taking up time of consultants, we wanted to seek your board's direction. And the resolution that's before you today just supports us continuing to explore this dedicated public safety tax. This isn't a resolution that places a measure on the ballot. That would be coming in the future if your board chooses to want to proceed in this direction. In the near future, next steps, if you direct us to do so today, we'd come back to your board with a contract with a consultant to provide services such as financial research, community outreach, opinion research, and expenditure plans for both the Sheriff and Fire Department. Fiscal impact-wise, professional services are, I think, going to be required in order for this ballot measure to be successful if your board wants to proceed in that direction. And from some preliminary estimates, these types of services could be in the neighborhood of $200,000 or so. We think there may be an opportunity to get some funding from sources, but at the end of the day, I think there is going to have to be some commitment from the general fund to go towards this education and outreach piece, and more specifically, it would come out of the general fund reserve. So we have some folks in the audience today. We have Georgina Vivian, who has helped us out a bit and given us some advice as we've gone. She worked successfully on the Measure T, transportation measure. And then we also have William Ritchie, and he is a resident of Madera County who has attended a number of our town halls and has been very helpful in informing the public about our current situation. So they're here today as well, and I'm available if you have any questions.
Paul?
Yeah, I just can't tell you how important this is. In fact, I got a letter from a lady today, actually, saying that she'd been dropped by 2 different insurance companies and whatever she could do to help us. And I don't know who she is, Kathleen Teeter, and I don't know where she lives, but this is so important, and I'd really like to have Bill come up and just give a little history so the public knows and it's on record. He has been such a help on this, and it's just something that we got to let the people make that decision whether they want to do this or not. It's not our decision is just to give it to the public and let them make that decision, and that's the main thing that we as supervisors should be doing. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and county staff, and members of the public. My name is Bill Ritchie. I reside in Raymond. 35 years background in pre-hospital emergency care and hospital-based emergency and trauma care, most here in the San Joaquin Valley, Fresno, Madera counties. Most of you know I've spent a lot of months involved in advocacy in something I feel very strong about from my personal experiences. I've attended a number of town hall meetings. I've met with a lot of the paid call firefighters. I've met with a lot of the CAL FIRE staff and spoken at some service clubs. And as expected, this fire season that we just concluded was of disaster proportion. It could have been worse. And the response to that disaster, county resources, particularly from volunteer engines and water tenders, were heavily involved in state resource area and Forest Service area fires. When this coverage and these incidents occur, that means remaining volunteer companies at times had difficulties in responding to calls. The call out for engine companies at times from volunteers does go unanswered. With greater frequency, call-outs for water tenders go unanswered. There have been several times where I've been concerned as a mountain resident where the state engine located at Raymond and the county staff volunteer engine located in Raymond has been dispatched for coverage or to incidents in the valley area, either when really sometimes what is not a major incident but becomes a major incident because of the lack of adequate staffing of these engines. More resources are pulled and displaced. The justification that brought this discussion up was the ISO and insurance premium crisis. And, of course, the policies in some of when we talk about low ISO rating, that's the bigger number, but many people that have been rated 10s, their policies are thousands of dollars, and in some cases they can't be written. If this trend continues, I see where it could negatively impact real estate values. It could be a deterrent, I believe, to commercial development in this county. But besides ISO as being the opening issue to bring this to discussion, there are really about 4 or 5 other issues that are just as important, if not more. I said to this board at the April 28th meeting that firefighter safety, both of the paid professional and paid call staff, is at risk when there's just a single firefighter responding to a call. Of course, to attack a fire, they need to have 2 on the inside and 2 on the outside. 2 on the outside to be able to rescue firefighters that go in for search and rescue or an interior attack. We have a need, as you know, for additional fire equipment. Much of the county's fleet is aged. Its reliability, it's much more intense for maintenance and repairs. When the equipment starts to get 25, 30 years old, the safety and reliability of that equipment becomes a problem. The paid call firefighters in this county feel sometimes, they voice to me, as second-class firefighters because often they receive the oldest and most obsolete equipment to perform what is really a frontline service. CAL FIRE has said, and this board has said, the county will always rely on paid call firefighters. And we have a dwindling number of paid call firefighters in this county. It's aging. Although there might be 175 people on the books, the actual numbers of active paid call firefighters that struggle to keep the responses up, from what I hear from PCFs, is more like 50 active PCFs that routinely respond to calls. I believe compensation and incentives for paid call firefighters has been long neglected. It might not solve the recruiting and retention problem, but the paid call firefighters are now at minimum wage as of January 1st. Still, their training is uncompensated. The response to emergency medical and rescue calls like that, which comprise 70 to 80%, they're not compensated for. And any solution that's proposed for this problem, I will say what's politically incorrect, but there is a schism that exists between the paid call staff and the professional staff. And there's going to have to be an effort, I believe, by this board to bridge that gap and provide the resources to the paid call firefighters so they feel valued and part of this team if we're going to rely on them. Finally, I want to address the risk, the property loss risk, and the loss of life risk due to prolonged response and inadequate staffing. This is really the most critical issue. I mentioned several times the Bondelli Rancho incident in 2014 where there was a water tender delay. Those kinds of delays still happen. In contrast, an example of the system that works well, just a few months ago in North Fork, there was a man riding his bicycle and collapsed. And due to the close proximity of firefighters that could get there in a short amount of time with an AED and defibrillate him, in 3 days he's out of the hospital and back to a full productive life. The attempt to measure loss of life in dollars, although people have tried to do it, is not really the issue, because the loss of life and personal loss and grief is immeasurable. When you look at this last fire season, the Chowchilla area in particular is the most understaffed in the county, city and county fire departments. There's an over-reliance on volunteer personnel, long response times, and of course you know the city of Chowchilla lost a water tender backing up the county on a county fire this summer. The solution is really the county needs to build the fire department, both staff and capital investment. The proper answer would have been 40 to 50 years ago that a fire district should have been established. But right now, under the current funding mechanisms that I see in the budget, because I read that document all the time, I know how much difficulty it is for staff and you folks to balance it. But the current revenue, I don't believe, will grow fast enough to make the deficiencies go away. I believe that a dedicated funding mechanism is needed now to place the county in a better position to accommodate the growth and development that we're experiencing and anticipate, particularly on the Highway 41 corridor in the mountain area. I want to emphasize, I believe this is an issue where the voters should be given the opportunity to decide whether or not to address if they want a tax. If they have the opportunity to decide, then I feel that this board has met its obligation to put that question before them and educate them as to the deficiencies and the possible solution. I believe the board does have a responsibility as our elected representatives to evaluate, assess, and make recommendations in education available to the public. I do not believe no is a solution to this problem. So I ask you today, respectfully, to support moving forward with this resolution and the feasibility study. The final comment that I would have is, even as much as we need this effort, I believe the November 2016 ballot could be very difficult in achieving the task that should be completed before a successful campaign could be mounted. That's only 9 months away. And after any monies would be allocated for the feasibility study, then there would be the need to raise campaign funds to wage a successful campaign. Finally, the State Legislative Analyst's Office issued a report about a year ago. The timing of special tax measures is presented to local voters, whether it's on a general election or a non-general election, significantly affects the success of such a measure put before voters. And they report the figures that a general election successful ballot measure for special tax is approximately 49% success for public safety, and on a non-special election ballot, it approaches 59%. And 59% is about 20% more than 49%. I believe it would be easy to get a majority vote. I believe it will be a challenge, particularly on a general election, to get a 67% vote. Thank you for allowing me to share my comments and interest in this matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Brett?
Thank you for your words. I'm not going to speak to the necessity of the tax and what it means to our public safety entities. I think that was detailed very well by you, and we've discussed it at length here. I want to thank this board for placing me on this ad hoc committee. This is the purest form of taxation with representation. It is putting it on to a ballot measure. Looking at this and looking at what the measure is going to say, I take with grave responsibility, making sure that it's written so that these taxes don't go to anything other than the funding of public safety, that what the voters said they would want to have or not want to have spent on it. Just getting it onto the ballot is the first step. It's getting the education out there and making sure that what the voters voted on is actually where it goes to, and making sure that it doesn't backfill other general fund items, making sure that the general fund continues to support public safety the way it has in the past, that these are just monies, new monies that will go to fund only public safety, not not blowing up a budget of administrative costs and everything like that. That's where we have more control here at the local level as a conservative board versus at the state or federal level when tax is levied without a vote of the people, and then that money is taken and put wherever they want to in their general fund.
Whenever they want to.
Whenever they want to. I mean, we're looking at the gas tax right now, and they won't even agree to say that they won't take that and use it for different purposes down the road other than the infrastructure that it's supposed to pay for. Here, I won't support a measure going forward that doesn't keep it only where the voters say it should go. So I thank you for tasking me with that ability to be a watchdog on this. So, but we need to move forward and have that education that goes out to the public. Tom?
Yeah, just one last statement, which I didn't say at first, and Bill brought it up, is that I want to really stress that we want to take some of this money to help our volunteer firemen for their uniforms, for their training, and more pay for when they do this. I want them to be paid for every time they go out, whether it's a fire and/or accident. So I just think it's so important. So to get more people, that's when we're going to get young people. They can't afford to do the training stuff they have to now. So you bring it to the public, and I'm ready to make a motion.
Anybody else have any comment? I'd like to make a comment. You know, we're voting on something to basically hire a consultant, correct, to look at this. Is the CDF and the Sheriff Department, do they have any money for consultants? So we're asking the taxpayers to hire a consultant to tax them. That's what we're doing with the general fund money. And so anyway, I just want to make sure that, you know, everybody has a little piece of this, and I don't know if I know the Sheriff Department does hire consultants. I know the CDF does hire consultants. You know, a three-way split or something like that. Can that be looked at? Or
Mr. Chairman, this particular budget item isn't budgeted in either of those budgets or administration.
Yeah.
It would all be general fund dollars, so I guess, you know, it probably wouldn't really matter where it's coming from. It's general fund, and it's going to have to originate from contingency. So I was really disappointed to hear that the city backed out on on their side of it, and I understand why. But you know, that would have given more voters and more, you know, openness to this. So the only thing that we'll be asking is basically taxpayers to vote on a tax on fire. I haven't heard anything from the Sheriff Department at the last two meetings why they need this tax. But anyway. I know you guys have in the Have Hawk committees, but you know, I'm really disappointed that we didn't have the city support, and I think we do. We don't have Chotchilla support, or no, and it wasn't so much that we didn't have their support. It was that the needs were so very different between what the city needed and what the county needed.
Two needs.
So basically, this will be District 1. District 1, District 2, and 5.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I just wanted to clarify a point that we've talked about within the ad hoc committee. The county itself, we couldn't fund the campaign. That would have to be done privately or through the CAL FIRE Union or the Deputy Sheriff's Association Union. The only thing that we could fund would be the education portion of it to let people know what the measure was, and that's it, right? Is that because as soon as if we were putting money into a campaign, this isn't to say vote for it or not vote for it. Our portion of it would just be to say this is what it is, so that you know what you're voting on, and that would be the portion that we could do. if that's correct?
That's correct, Supervisor Frazier. What we would come back with is the financial research that would then lead to an expenditure plan, a well-defined expenditure plan, and then doing the community outreach and education, and also getting opinion of the public as well as a piece of that. So.
Yeah, there would be, I forgot that. There's a polling portion of it. So, at the front end, if we go out and poll and they're saying, 20% favor, we know right then what our,
Okay. Anything else from the public before I bring it back to the board? Thank you, Becky.
Thank you. Good morning. Still morning. Rebecca Martinez, Clerk Recorder, Registrar of Voters. My only concern is the timing. In the resolution, it states that the matter would be brought back on or before August the 2nd, which really cuts it close to the legal deadline for putting something on the ballot. Our preference is to have all of the materials to us, which would include the tax rate statement, the impartial analysis, and perhaps the fiscal impact statement by July the 6th, which is E-125. We could probably still work with it shortly after July the 6th, but there's a lot to be done by way of publications, getting the things translated. The printing deadlines is big because what it does is if we have to wait for a while to get the resolutions and things of that sort, it pushes Madera County's printing schedule back. So then it forces us to put out materials that are not timely. So those are my only concerns, is just the timing of it.
We can change those dates. That's...
Ms. Martinez brings up a very good point, and I think that was put in just to let everyone know that that's kind of the drop-dead date. But we would definitely want to take that into consideration, that everything needs to be there earlier. And as a matter of fact, we would immediately, whether it's the next meeting or the following meeting, we'd have the consultant agreement back before your board. That's the first thing we need to do, get some direction on that and get moving forward so we can get all these pieces and meet the deadline if it's July or whatever it needs to be there.
Sounds good. Thanks, Becky.
Okay, thank you.
Max?
The chairman stated something about it's unfortunate the city pulled out, but you know what? Indirectly, probably the best thing could happen. Yeah. You have a lot of people live in the city of Madera, and they just don't see the urgency of this matter, and they would probably vote no on it.
I think so, too.
So, and the people that live up in the rural areas or up in the mountains, the foothills and all that, they see firsthand what can happen. So I see it as a win-win situation. They saw what happened last summer, and what can happen again. So for them to vote against this project would be to cut their nose off. You got to vote for it because they see their insurance rates go up, and then many times it disappears. The companies don't want to insure properties up there because it's a loss situation. I used to sell insurance before, and any time a house is more than 5 miles away from a fire station, it's a total loss. It is a total loss. That's what the industry sees, that they don't want to insure losses. So I myself, I live in the city, but I totally support when we vote for it in the city, I'll vote for it. You have to pay. You got to pay for these services, and we're negligent right now. We just don't have enough people out there to
well,
help us when we need them.
Yeah. Earlier I mentioned, when we were talking about the fire and the fires up there and stuff, and to me this is a government-caused issue, and the government should be paying basically the CDF and our sheriff department because of the issues that we have with fire and safety. This is all the way from federal government to state government, the issues that we are having right now up there. And that's why
Rick,
I'm just saying, it's just the bark beetle and all that stuff and everything else. And I hate to put a more burden on the taxpayer because it's actually the government that caused them to have to vote for this tax in a county. It's just absolutely, and I agree, and I agree with it. and we've been through the volunteer program 3 years ago, and we saw where that got us. But anyway, I just want to make that clear, the way I'm thinking about it.
Well, Rick, you got to think, we were debating this, talking about it a few moments ago about previous administrators or people that work for the county not doing their job. That's why we got into bad situations, and this board is trying to rectify some of these problems. Same thing here. What happens in the past, we got to just let it go and try to improve the situation as it stands now. We can't keep repeating, they should have done this, government should have done that. Let's get together and take care of these problems that are having. It's going to cost money. It's not cheap. It's not going to cheap.
That's not my point. The point is we are taxing the Madera County people for their own protection because our government has failed us. I'm sorry, period. All right. Paul?
That's true. But the thing is that two things is that what people are paying now for their insurance is extravagant compared to this tax rate. I mean, it's not even. I mean, this little bit of you might pay $100 a year in this tax, but they're paying thousands of dollars in insurance if they can get it. This lady got to cancel twice, and it's happened that all over. Allstate will not.
You got $150 whack.
Plus, the $150 for the SRA fees. And then Chowchilla's got the same thing. This is not just up there. They're 10 rated too, ISO, because their fire station is not fully manned. So this is not just the mountains. It's for the whole county.
I agree.
So
I agree.
I have one more.
Okay, let's. You done?
I haven't talked at all yet.
We just look at MCTC, which is the same kind of a measure. We tout that as we're a self-help county where we weren't getting things from the state because the state wasn't doing it. We did it for ourselves, and that went in front of the voters, and that has to be. Again, this is taxation with representation. We're not able to levy a tax, nor will we. It has to be, the voters have to say yes at a pretty high rate.
Dave?
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm not proposing a tax on anybody. We're allowing the voters to make that decision themselves.
Exactly.
And here, as a taxpayer myself, person who buys a lot of stuff in Madera County, I want to remind everybody that I pay property taxes. I buy stuff in Madera County too, and I employ people in Madera County. And the reality is this: when I pay my insurance bill, I get sick to my stomach because my insurance bill is like $2,000, $2,500 a year on my house. It's getting to where it is at parity with my house payment. And the reality is that the ISO ratings directly affect that. The ISO ratings are directly affected by the fact that we don't have adequately staffed fire department.
That's right.
And the same is true of your liability policy when it comes to sheriff and police, and the theft and loss. The same is true there. The ISO ratings are also affecting that. So we have to ask ourselves the question as voters, as taxpayers,
and leaders.
Will this sales tax, and I would not be in favor of a property tax, but a sales tax is a little bit different animal to me. Will this sales tax, if levied by the voters upon ourselves, will it offset the monies, the amount of money that I'm paying in insurance in the end? I believe the answer to that question is yes. I'm not saying I support the measure. I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm just saying we ought to give the opportunity to explore this.
I make a motion we approve moving forward on this and work out the dates that works best with Becky on our timing on that so we don't mess that up.
Second. We have a first by Tom, a second by Max. Can I have the vote?
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Well, let's go to lunch and come back at 1:30.
Thank you, Rick.
go.
That sounds good, dude.
Okay, which one did we stop on?
I love them.
It wasn't that great.
Oh.
Okay, I think we got through 6F, right? Let's just go all the way down.
Gary.
Okay. 6G. 6G.
6G.
Back in
County
session.
Administration Department, discussion and consideration of entering into a property tax exchange agreement with Madera Irrigation District for 10 years from the date of adoption.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Kevin Fries with the Administrative Office. Madera Irrigation District, or MID, has applied and has been approved by LAFCO for the annexation of 18 parcels located in Madera County, totaling approximately 10,485 acres into their district. The proposed annexation is intended to place parcels which they are owned by MID within their district boundaries. In order to comply with the California Government Code Section 99, LAFCO requires local entities to enter into a tax exchange agreement. The County Assessor's Office and the Auditor Controller's Office work cooperatively to calculate the loss of county revenues resulting from the annexation and have developed a formula to calculate the impact. The county and MID agree that property taxes and direct charges related to Williamson Act land that previously would have been paid to the county except for the annexation will be paid by MID to the county on the established formula on an annual basis, resulting in no negative fiscal impact to the county. As a result, it is recommended that the proposed tax exchange agreement be approved. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
No.
On board? Any questions from the public? What's your pleasure? We have a first by David Rogers and a second by Brett Frazier. Can we have a vote, please?
Call for the vote. Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Good job.
Thank you.
Tough.
Yeah, great, man.
6H.
County Administrative Department Human Resources Operations Division 2015 Class and Compensation Study. Discussion and consideration of approval to implement the recommendations of the 2015 Class and Compensation Study effective July 1, 2016 for elected and appointed non-safety department heads and unrepresented employees. 2, discussion and consideration of approval to implement the recommended salary for the position of Executive Director of Community Action Partnership of Madera County effective July 1, 2016.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the board. Adrienne Caleb reporting this afternoon on behalf of administration. The item that's before you is actually the last step to implement the class and comp study countywide, and the information's there in the backup. I've provided it for your information, and I am open to any questions.
Thank you.
I got one.
Okay, Tom?
On page 2 of 2, on the thing, the legislative assistant, is that our ones that work for us?
Yes.
We need to change that to chief of staff.
It is Chief of Staff, and thank you, Supervisor Wheeler. One thing that I really tried hard not to do was to make any changes to the documents.
Oh, I see.
For the classifications.
But later on we will?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, the legislative assistants, that title has been changed to District Chief of Staff, so this salary will change for those individuals in July.
Okay. Oh, I see, right, because this is actually goes back to the
Yes.
gentleman. Okay.
Okay.
I got it, because that's what they were then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Adrian, where does the COLAs come into this?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the
Where does
question.
the COLAs come into this? I mean, how does that continue?
This is independent of a COLA. This is a salary adjustment based on the results of a comp study. A COLA is a cost of living adjustment that will typically come at a later date. At this point in time, I don't have any direction to move forward with implementing any COLAs. This is just strictly the compensation study.
Okay, this is just the total compensation, one shot.
Correct.
Increases.
That's correct.
So this whole total cost of everything that we've approved since, I guess, December 8th $4,654 and some
Yes,
cents.
and some cents, yes, 4.68.
So it'll be interesting how we move forward and pay for this later on as the economy starts dipping. So anyway. Okay. Anybody else? Any public? Daniel, you sure you don't want to talk about that? Okay. Back to the board, please.
I make a motion to approve
Second.
item 1 and 2.
Got a first and a second. First from Max, second from Tom.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
6-I.
County Administration Department, Human Resources Operations Division. Second hearing to consider an ordinance amending Chapter 2.97 of Title II of Madera County Code to reflect the new titles of the department and department head information technology.
This is a continuation of the original request from January the 5th to change the department title and the title of the department head to the Office of Information Technology and then to the Chief Information Officer, respectively. And I'm open for any questions.
No questions from the board? Anybody from the public? Bring it back to the board.
Move to approve. Second.
Have a first and a second. Dave first, second Brett. May I have a motion?
First the worst, second the best.
Yeah, first and second real fast.
Either or.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Here.
Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Are you sure you're here?
Jay.
You got a vote, though.
He's gone.
I also do all four of those at one time.
County Administration Department, Human Resources Operations Division. Discussion and consideration of approval of resolution appointing Tanya Say as Madera County's Chief's Information Officer effective February 1, 2016.
Move to approve.
Second.
Can we hear from the public first? Okay, no public.
You can do that.
I think Tanya's going to come up and say no. Is that what you're going to say, Tanya?
First and second again? Okay, and then vote, please.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
No. Yes.
Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Actually, the motion was made by Supervisor Frazier. I seconded it.
You guys are so fast, we can't get you. That's okay.
Quick on the draw.
Okay.
We've talked about this how many times?
Okay, you see how
Tanya
fast this is going now.
She wants to say something. Hey, she wants to say something.
Good afternoon, Tanya Say, Interim Director of Information Technology,
Not
I guess
anymore.
until February 1st.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I just want to thank you all for the opportunity. I look forward to the leadership capacity of this position and doing good things for Madera County. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I think we look forward to it also. 6K.
County Administration Department, Human Resources Operations Division. Discussion and consideration of approval of a resolution appointing Vicki West as Madera County's Director of Child Support Services effective February 1, 2016.
Move to approve.
Second.
Anybody from the public again? No. Please call for a vote. Who first did this time?
That was me.
Brett, and then Dave. Their voices are so much alike.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Okay, 6, whatever the heck that is, L.
Oh.
You could say it's an I if you wanted to. It's an
Vicki West,
You run out?
Deputy Director for the Department of Child Support Services till February 1st. I want to thank you. It almost doesn't seem adequate to express my gratitude to all of you for the opportunity that you've given me, but also for the confidence that you've shown in me. It means the world to me, and I'll do everything in my power to prove you were right. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay.
County Administration Department, Human Resources Operations Division. Discussion and consideration of approval to authorize the Human Resources / Operations Division to amend the position allocation resolution within org number 06000 by adding one full-time employee and designating it to the class of supervising animal services officer.
Good afternoon again. This is a
Got you this time. Oh, they're actually going to listen.
this is a
The other one we talked about.
a change to the org for animal services. Kirsten has seen a significant reduction in her staffing, and she has made the case before administration that she really needs to have a supervisor, and this request will place that position back into her allocation, and it's been confirmed that she has the dollars for the remainder of this fiscal year to fund the position from an internal opportunity, promotional opportunity. And I'm open to any questions.
No. Any questions from the public? Bring it back to the board.
Yeah, they need a lot of help there.
they do,
Anything
for
that
sure.
we can do to support them in that, I think is very important that we do so. And with that, I'd like to make to move for approval.
Second.
Oh, boy, different this time. Brett Fraser first, Paul Wheeler second.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
6 M.
Move to approve for Becky.
Yes mode.
County Clerk Recorder, Register of Voters, discussion and consideration of approval to grant Jose Gonzalez, Deputy Clerk Recorder 2, with a temporary 5% additional compensation per month pursuant to Madera County Code, Section 2.60310, for performing additional technical-related assignments until such time that the department is able to recruit and appoint an individual in a technical services position effective January 1, 2016.
Just say hello. I like hearing your voice.
Okay, good afternoon,
Move to
Rebecca
approve.
Martinez. Thank you.
Second.
Call for the vote. Supervisor
Oh, we
Frazier?
didn't go, just a minute.
Oh, I'm
Anybody in the public? Okay, nobody in the public? Okay. Call for the vote.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Farinelli?
Good job. Yes.
Oh, man.
I love it. I wish it'd go like this all the time. Thank you very much.
6 in.
Board of
Hey,
Directors?
Becky, I thought it did.
Yeah.
Board of Directors, Special Districts, Maintenance District Number 19A and 19B, Parkwood Community and Economic Development Department, and Public Works Department. Discussion and consideration of approval of a resolution requesting the City of Madera reestablish a water connection from Maintenance Districts Number 19A and 19B, Parkwood.
Thank you. Good. My turn. Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. This is a request in front of you to reestablish an intertie with the City of Madera for the Parkwood neighborhood. As you know, well number 3 went down in early 2014, and we tried to move to do some repairs, and the intertie was established while the well was repaired. When that well came back online, there's excessive turbidity, and essentially the fire flow is quite low. And in fact, they're running only at about 250 gallons per minute currently. There's primary drinking water standards are met, but secondary standards are violated, which is MCLs for manganese, which doesn't require you to, it's still safe to drink. However, there are definitely some color, some of the people, not everywhere, it's inconsistent, but some people's water is coming out black in Parkwood. So there are definitely some issues there. So our discussions with the city was, well, you fix the well and we close the intertie, so, when is the system going to have good health? 3 things are on the horizon. The first one, and this was the first request, is to reestablish the intertie and still the water tank that's being put in. And literally, I just saw one of our people coming back from the field after lunch, by June of this year, funded by the USDA. That'll bring resiliency to the system like Fairmead. Many of you remember what that did for Fairmead. And we'd reevaluate that then at that time. And then the second item coming online is a well, again, funded by the state, going to take a little bit longer to get done, a year or two. And then also a replacement of the pipes and a metering system. So all 3 are on the table. So the first milestone is that. So a couple of things we talked to the city about was we'd like to reestablish that until that tank is in place to increase the resiliency, fire flow, and residential standards. The amount that was charged previously and the amount of rates coming out of that neighborhood are about $14,000 a month is the rates payers water portion. The last intertie was about $8,000 to $9,000 a month cost. So we've demonstrated through these reports that there is enough in the ratepayers to include to pay for that. We've also confirmed from the state, because this is a metered connection, it will not count against the city's conservation standards. It counts against ours. So we've vetted this out fairly well. We have already, the chairman did authorize me to send the request over prior to the resolution because we wanted to get it in front of them. We worked with Supervisor Rodriguez, and this is just the formal resolution to reestablish this until the tank comes in the middle of the year so we can, again, reevaluate it. Now, the question of outdoor watering came up. This says we will continue to restrict outdoor watering. So if we move forward with that being at 1 day a week, that to me is fine. Now, if the 1 day a week puts in the intertie in jeopardy, then we would probably want to come back and discuss it again. So we will continue to have restricted water out there in Parkwood. It's a very important situation to get this for the fire flow, to get this going for the next few months. So we think we've put together a good package. We've met with the city a couple of times on this. This is absolutely something that we think is very important. And then the other thing is, although we're not making as big a deal about it, is we have been issued a pre-consolidation order by the State Water Resources Control Board that says, please, local jurisdictions, come up with a good solution, or the state, through its powers, they have a new law, they will come in, and they sent this letter, it's in your packet, and they will come up with their own version of consolidation, which I don't know that serves everybody the best. So we are working well with the city on the topic. Once this resolution is signed, we'll be following up with them to see how we can move forward. Any questions? Thank you.
Norman, you're exactly right. They really need that water tie over there, and hopefully the board here will see through that. I really need your help, guys. I really do. I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
Anybody from the public? Nobody from the public? Motion to approve. Okay. And Tom second. Max first, Tom second.
I just wanted to say something too, that this is really important because, and the state's not messing around with all these groups like up at Bass Lake and stuff are fighting the state. They're going to lose. The state is not going to let this happen to these people that's not getting clean water. So get ready.
It's happening in the ranchos in 2 different places.
Yep.
It's
Yes, sir. There are several orders of consolidation coming out, and hopefully, as usual, we would rather have our own local solution.
in the less number of special districts we have, where we can consolidate, that's where you'll end up getting the law of large numbers. More people pay in, you can do more with it. So
consolidation. For sure. Okay.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Here.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
That was my homage to you.
Thank you,
Max.
staff.
It was your motion. So.
Thank you. Okay, back to close.
I want to thank the board for their support.
What's that? You're welcome.
Always.
Yeah, let's do the legislation real quick. Is there any legislation to bring forward, anybody? Nope. And then I'll turn in my supervisor report, and let's go to closed session.
Okay. I want to report that I attended RCRC's annual function, installation of officers.
Installation offers, huh?
And I report MCTC that I went to, and since there's 3 of us there, so.
I was there too.
I know, there's 3 of us there.
And Maxie.
What was the?
I just wanted to remind everyone that Civics Day is Wednesday, February 3rd. That's our mock board meeting. And I'm encouraging as many departments as possible to participate so we can have some more action for the Boy Scouts. Thank you.
Boy Scout Day. You guys remember that? Dave? You got that on your calendar?
I've got it on the
The
calendar.
Boy Scouts Civics Day?
Yes.
Okay.
Already.
Yeah.
Give them heck again.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to closed session.
Okay, boss.
vote to adjourn the meeting.
Move to adjourn.
I have a first.
You can do that on your
I'll
own. if
second.
you want.
I'll
Yeah,
third.
executive
Max will
authority.
third. Tom, you'll fourth it? Thank you guys very much. Good meeting.
Yep, it was.
You have something for us, Matt?
Yeah, that's what I asked.
Or did somebody kick